And for more on that, we welcome now Congressman Tom Cole. He's been a congressman and is now still a congressman, Republican from Oklahoma. Congressman,
yeah, if you're a Republican, you have to add that caveat.
Well, that's true. That's a very, very fair point. Thank you. So what do you make of that? Because I'll be honest, I listen to that and I think, wait, what? Can we really separate these two issues so cleanly, the Huawei issue and the ongoing trade negotiations?
It's going to be extraordinarily difficult to do it because I don't think the Chinese will allow it. Look, Secretary Leitner is absolutely correct in his analysis. This really is a case of a criminal justice matter colliding with a matter of what the appropriate trade relationship between China and the United States ought to be. But I think the Chinese are going to consider them one and the same thing. So while it's very appropriate for us to try and draw this distinction, I think at the end of the day, it'll become part of any final settlement.
And how worried are you about getting to that final settlement? You know, we have a deadline at least out there right now, March 1st, although as we heard about Brexit, you know, deadlines come and go. How confident are you we get something done with the Chinese at this point?
I'm not confident. Look, the Chinese have been able to get away with, frankly, I think, violating their WTO obligations and acting in a predatory manner on intellectual property, not just to us, but to countries all across the world for many, many, many years. And the president, to his credit, is trying to change the nature of our relationship and break those bad Chinese habits. But they've got a lot of different cards to play. For instance, there's this one, but there's also our relationship with North Korea, which we certainly require their help to get the North Koreans where we want them to be. So I think the Chinese are going to be loath to stop doing things that have helped them enormously economically, even though they've been patently unfair and in violation of the agreements that the Chinese have signed.
Well, it also feels like, Congressman, and I'm gonna tap your knowledge as a historian here, and we're gonna get into this later in the show as well. You know, the Chinese and the U.S. seem to be operating from different perspectives in this regard. You know, history is much longer, it feels like, in a negotiation for the Chinese versus especially this current administration that, you know, really wants to put some wins on the board. So what do you make of kind of where the parties stand at this point?
Well, you're exactly right. Look, the Chinese have a 5,000-year history. They look at time in very different ways than we do. And frankly, they tend to be more patient. They're basically a mercantile power. We would prefer to be a free trade power, but again, the president always corrects that. We want the trade to be fair. He's right to do that. So again, I think we do have a fundamental worldview clashing. I think the Chinese count on outweighting the Americans. They've done that in the past. We'll see whether or not they can do it this time. But I do think the president is awfully determined to try and change the practices of the Chinese government and the Chinese economy insofar as its relationship with other countries is concerned. He's been the first president, frankly, to really be confrontational to the Chinese.
Right.
I don't think they're sure yet whether that's an aberration or this is now going to be an enduring characteristic of American policy.
So confrontation makes me think of some of the drama that we see inside the White House, especially when it comes to, you know, a potential successor to John Kelly, set to leave as the president's chief of staff. A couple of names that have been mentioned. One, a current colleague of yours, Mark Meadows, and a former colleague of yours, Mick Mulvaney. What do you make of the odds that one of those guys gets this job?
You know, there's only one guy that makes this decision, and I'm quite prepared to work with whoever the President of the United States chooses. This is his most intimate staff selection. It should be whoever he wants. Now, the two gentlemen you mentioned, Congressman Meadows, former Congressman Mulvaney, are both friends of mine. They're very capable guys. I think there certainly would be a lot of support here in Congress for having people in that critical position that we know as a person and have interacted with. But in the end, it's got to be somebody the President wants and is comfortable with. Anybody else really is not going to measure up, no matter what the opinion of them is outside. So President's choice, and it's our job to work with that person.
Republican Congressman Tom Cole of Oklahoma, I at least know who you'll be rooting for as the college football playoffs come closer and closer.
Hey, we're 14-point underdogs, but we're not giving up.
Well, yeah, you've got a tough road to the national championship, but you got a Heisman Trophy winner on your side. So good luck to you. Enjoy the holidays.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Coming up next, we're going to have more on the markets, just taking a look